everybody. I'm Dr. Katie Mayer. I'm your host, and I run this weekly newsletter and podcast called Getting In. The hardest part of vet school is getting in. I also run a one-on-one mentorship called Let's Get You Into Vet School. And I'm here today with Dr. Dillon Scott. Hi.
Hi, Katie. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that you could join us and impact our little community here.
Yeah, absolutely. No, looking forward to it because, everybody's got a different story to tell. So
exactly. None of us are the same. Well, let me tell you a little about him. So Dr. Scott began his academic journey at the University of Calgary before earning his animal health technology degree from Olds College in 2013. He then worked as a registered veterinary technologist in small animal specialty medicine before pursuing further education at St. Matthew's University School of Veterinary Medicine in 2019. He completed his final year at the Atlantic Veterinary College in Prince Edward Island. And following veterinary school, he completed a combined private practice and academic rotating internship through the University of Calgary and Western Veterinary Specialists. And he's now completing a surgical specialty internship in Los Angeles. Does that sound right?
that is me in a nutshell. Yeah, that's my entire journey and story with a lot of hiccups along the way, but yeah.
I just took all those years and shoved them into that paragraph. All right. Well, let's just jump right in. I help students get accepted to vet school. And, those application processes can be different for every single student, like you said. How was that process for you?
So for me, I took a very non-traditional route to veterinary medicine. And I came from like a really small town in British Columbia. I'm Canadian, obviously. So I came from a really small town down there, and I was interested in veterinary medicine. I got bit with the veterinary medicine bug, just like everybody does when they're younger. And, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a veterinarian and all that. I had to go to the big city, as it were. I had to kind of move away, go to the big city, figure all that stuff out, get that stuff started. But I didn't know where to begin. I'd never stepped foot in a veterinary clinic. I had never been exposed to anything like that. So my first exposure was actually while I was in university, starting university. I went and volunteered at a 24-hour emergency hospital that was just kind of like on my way to the university at one time. And so I was just like, all right, let's go see what this is about. And I started that. And I was just, kind of an assistant, and then I ended up working through to getting like a full-time job while I was there. And that actually supported me through my university or when I started it. But I also, heard some horror stories, right? Like everybody's kind of heard the thing of, veterinary medicine and burnout and, a lot of other things that are kind of some adversities that you'll encounter along the way. And so I was like, do I really want to do this? Is this what I want to do? And so a lot of people encouraged me to go into veterinary technology and become a registered veterinary technologist. So I applied for school, got into there. They helped me along the way to kind of help boost my program because I moved away from family. I just, I didn't have a whole lot of money. I was just trying to figure it out. And so they actually paid for part of my school. I shot a lot. I learned a lot. I did a lot of those things along the way. And so I graduated as a veterinary technician. I was a veterinary technologist, and I was working for, years. I started in emergency medicine, went into specialty anesthesia, and then into specialty surgery. And before you knew it, I was applying for vet school all over again and, kind of doing that thing. So I was really excited about it. I didn't take the traditional pathway and kind of go right through because I started university. I stopped university. I went into college instead. And then I kind of had to go back again to university like almost 8 years later and, kind of start that process again, which was kind of intimidating.
You were getting like prerequisites.
Yeah, I had to go back and do my prerequisites, do all of that stuff. And then kind of, get back into it, as it were. And so for me and for lots of other people, there's a lot of adversity that you kind of face along the way. And so that was kind of my long-winded history of getting there. But then I ended up, finishing my prerequisites, going down to St. Matthew's, and then, continuing on my specialization journey, which I'm working on right now.
I love it. That sounds very similar to the path you took in the veterinary technologist school. You just went specialty, specialty, specialty. I can't wait to see what you do next.
Me too.
There are a couple things I absolutely love about the story you just told. And one of those is when you were like, okay, I want to make sure this is what I want. And you went and just volunteered. and then they gave you a job. And so that's what I'm always telling my students. They're like, I can't get a job. I can't get a job. This is my tip. Tell them I will work for free. If you are willing to scrub the kennels and sweep and clean the tables, you're going to have a job. They're going to start paying you eventually. And it might be slow or it might be fast. But if you say the words, I'm willing to work for free, you and I would both take those people, right?
100% of the time, anybody that I've worked with over the years, I was a manager at one of those 24-hour hospitals. I had worked in a lot of different industries, and those are the type of people that are willing to put the effort in, that I'm going to be willing to train and teach. And, all of the stuff that I've had my good mentors over the years show me, those are the people that I'm going to invest my time in to put it in there. And that's not to say you have to do free labor and, kill yourself, but a little bit of effort goes a very, very long way for a lot of different avenues. And veterinary medicine is like that in general.
Yep. You kind of prove your worth. It's almost like a working interview. And it doesn't mean you have to be there 7 days a week, like you said, bust your back. But like if you show up, if they say, you know what, we really do need an extra hand on Saturday mornings from 7 to 11, you show up every Saturday. But that's a really good way to get your foot in the door. And then I also, I do appreciate how you call yourself a non-traditional student. I have a lot of students like that. And it does seem like the main thing that holds them back is themselves, like their own limiting beliefs, as they say, like, I don't want to start over, I don't think there's enough time, all this stuff. But the reality is you just go back and take the courses that you need. Some of your courses might already count from years before and some may not. So you retake what you need and then you're there 1 year later or 2 semesters later.
Yep, absolutely. I agree with that 100%, because it doesn't matter if you're, a couple years out, if you're in your 30s, if you're in your early 40s, 50, whatever. Like I graduated with somebody that was 54 years old and they're starting their veterinary career now. And there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's right. You probably get avoid being called, as someone called me once, a fresh out. This older guy, I think I was in there to trim the dog's nails. Like, do I need to be that qualified? And he was like, I don't want the fresh out seeing my dog.
Yep. And I mean, regardless of what the story is, I mean, we all encounter different sorts of imposter syndrome along the way and all of that stuff. There's going to be good and bad days, but I mean, you know what? It's about your own journey and getting there and, pushing yourself to be able to get to that point. So whatever it takes, that's what's worth it.
I completely agree. Do what it takes. Jump through the hoops. Okay, so what brought you to St. Matthews? I kind of just learned about St. Matthews. I had known about some other schools in the Caribbean, and then I just learned about them through a student who told me, hey, I want to apply to St. Matthews. And so I went and really dug into it, and I found some things that I really, really liked about it. Can you tell us about what brought you there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so for me, I didn't even qualify for my in-state or my in-province school because it had been so long since I did some of my prerequisites. I had to actually do some more and go back. So what if I had to complete my entire degree instead of doing the 3 years that I actually did? So I would have had to like kind of go through and jump through some more hoops. St. Matthews and some of the island schools in general absolutely are kind of an option to be able to go and utilize or leverage what you've already done to be able to just kind of continue on and move forward a little bit faster. I mean, I did get accepted to some US schools. I mean, but for me, I chose palm trees over that. Sorry, some of the northern states. But the attraction for me was that I know that's not the same for everybody. And there is obviously that stigma of, the island schools being a little bit different. St. Matthews is actually an older school than the other two. Most people don't realize that it's actually been around for a little bit longer than Ross and SGU. Compared to the three of them, the bonus with Cayman or the Cayman Islands was that it was a very safe island. It had a lot of features that I enjoyed. It was a lot safer with all aspects of kind of, being a little bit more Americanized, as you will. So that really was an attractive feature for me. The cost difference was not much different either. And so the accelerated program for me was beneficial because I needed to get things done quickly and just kind of, move forward, especially with student loans and all of those things. So for me, it was a really easy choice to just get going and kind of progress in my career and move forward. And I think that's the same for a lot of people that they're looking to kind of, continue that journey. And for me, it was a fast way to kind of continue that, but also just, get going as soon as I can.
So I learned about St. Matthew's that they are year round, so you don't get like a huge summer off the first two, in between year one, year two, and then in between year two and year three. Therefore, you graduate faster.
Yeah, just over 3 years, and then you kind of have the 1 year where basically you actually go to a US or Canadian school and you continue on the rest of your training there on hand. But then all of your didactic stuff and some of the other basic hands-on and clinical skills and things are all done on island, which is awesome. So you get to experience kind of the island life and then be able to also, kind of travel around and network a little bit, which I think is really, really important. Getting into vet school, you do need to network. You do, build those relationships for sure. And the same thing applies when you're actually in vet school if you want to do internships and specialty medicine and all that stuff as well. So it's good to start early and practice and prepare for those interactions that you're going to have.
I completely agree. One of my colleagues and I that I graduated with, she and I were talking about using that last year, designing it carefully to make sure you try out different types of clinics, different types of medicine, not necessarily where you want to get a job. Yeah, that might, especially for GPs like us, if you know where you want to go and you want to try it out, go. But it's always good to kind of get a feel for everything else, especially in the area if you know where you're going to live, because you make those connections and you network with the people that you're going to be sending cases to. But also you can try out big clinic versus small clinic, ER versus GP, specialty. It's a good way to kind of feel everything out and really see if it is what you think it is.
No, I agree 100%. And I mean, even from like before you get into vet school, component of that is everybody thinks they're going to be like, I'm going to be a large animal person. I'm going to be a small animal person. I'm going to, I'm going to do this or I want to do this. And then if I had $1 for every one of my coworkers and colleagues and everybody who changed their mind at some point during that curriculum, during their career, like everybody has a little bit of a switch in the sense that, they thought it was one thing and maybe it wasn't what they thought, or they fell in love with something they didn't really know about. And you're exposed to all of that. So keep your mind open and, especially when you're applying to vet schools and, trying to get through that process, be mindful of that. You go to the best place that's going to suit you, not necessarily what you think you're going to be excited about, right now, because things change.
Completely agree. Completely agree. And I do get that question a lot. Like, I want to be a wildlife vet. What vet school is best for that? I'm like, well, there's 35 of them. So, or whatever the number is at this point is growing. There's, a few more coming this way. But anyway, there's a bunch of vet schools and they all have almost exactly the same curriculum as far as you're learning about every species. And yes, you can design your last year, but you can do that anywhere. Every single vet school, you get to pick your track, you get to pick your externships, and then you can design your, what you think you want to specialize in. If that's true at the end of your journey, then you can, go wherever you want to figure that out. But I agree. My advice is go where they're going to take you in. Like, go where you get accepted.
I agree 100%. And like we were chatting about earlier, yeah, with the stigmas of, the island schools and stuff like that, like that stigma has gone away now.
I completely agree. I meant to interrupt you and tell you that I don't think that's a thing anymore.
Yeah, no, I think we were both in agreement with that. Like my proof in the pudding of that is when I was applying for internships, rotating internships and kind of moving around.
This is after vet school.
Yeah, this is after vet school. So we've completed vet school and now I'm like, I'm interested in specialization or even just being a general practitioner, emergency veterinarian, but, some extra training that I think will be really beneficial. And so doing a rotating internship, which is what I was embarking on, I thought was going to be really, really helpful, especially because I wanted to specialize personally. But I mean, even when I was doing all those interviews, I did a lot more interviews than, other people did. Some people did with the veterinary internship and residency matching program. It's an online program that kind of matches you after vet school into programs that you can go and do additional training after. And with that program, most people do like 1 to 10 and they do, a few where they do interviews or, they kind of apply for programs. For me, I did 50. I applied for a lot of them. And the way that I looked at it was I wanted to network with some of these people and get my name out there and, actually talk with some of these people, but also get practice with interviews. It was a great experience. It was tough because I was trying to squeeze it in between, classes and school and things. It was definitely tough, but I think it was worth it in the end because I got a lot of practice with those interviews and chatting with different people and seeing what questions they asked and kind of, having that repertoire that I was going to use later potentially for specialization. And the same thing applies with trying to get into vet school. It's no different. Those are skills that you take with you for the rest of your life. So I thought it was really important to be able to do that. And so I did a lot of them. And it really kind of helped me progress forward, and make my life a little bit easier in that regard.
Yeah, I love that. Not only are you interviewing to get into vet school and to get jobs on the side, then you're interviewing for your last year, or the year after your internship. Then you interview for a job, but then you get interviewed. How many appointments do you see a day? 20? I get interviewed 20 times a day. Do I like you? Do I trust you? Do you seem competent? And those are skills, like you said, you use them constantly, not just for jobs, though.
That's daily life and interacting with colleagues and friends and like all of those things. Like it's a really beneficial thing to be able to, bring those skills with you, because as a professional, as a doctor, that's something that you use every single day. You're exactly right.
Completely agree. Well, okay, so tell me a little more about St. Matthew's, like your life there. So I never really thought about the idea that it was a little more Americanized. I can totally envision that. And the safety is huge. Also did not even cross my mind. What was like the best part about that school and the location?
Absolutely. So, St. Matthew's University is a vet school that's on the Grand Cayman Islands. So, kind of like in the Cuba region down there. It's like a little tiny spot that you'll see. Very beautiful island. It has one of the top beaches in the world, 7 Mile Beach. It's literally just 7 miles of beaches, and it's just absolutely amazing. It's very interesting because it's, kind of American style living, Canadian style living in what looks like a beautiful island with, palm trees and sand and everything. And it is wonderful. And from my experience, I enjoyed that for sure. Like going out and just, swimming with stingrays and like doing all of those things was awesome. But to be able to have your vet school there and, actually it almost looks like a picture on the wall when you look out like your balcony and you're just like, is this just, you can walk outside and actually go experience it, which was really cool because you also got to see a lot of people from different walks of life. And that's the other thing that I enjoyed a lot, not just like the beaches and kind of hanging out down there. Also coming from Canada, the warmth was absolutely amazing. Enjoyed that. But being able to network with people from all around the world, like I had, classmates that were from all over the place, from the UK and Canada and the US and all over, and that for me was a really awesome experience to be able to just chat with all those people and get those different experiences because they had come from all walks of life as well. And so St. Matthew's University is also a school that kind of really believes in the grind. So they're very, if you're motivated, if you're dedicated, and if they see that you are a person that is willing to kind of put in the work, then they're a lot more likely to invest in you. And that is kind of the investment that you're both making, right? And so for them, they look at the whole picture, the whole student, not necessarily just, what's your grades, what's, your application and all of those things that are individual, which are very important. But it's also important to kind of get that holistic approach and look at, somebody from the whole, because, for me, taking 8 years off in between and, doing some school years ago and then doing some school later. And then I also worked, full time during lots of my courses and stuff like that. So, I mean, did I have a 4.0 GPA? No, absolutely not. But they also knew that I was somebody who's willing to put in the work and put in the effort. And yeah, that's where it got me. So it's a beautiful place, beautiful island, beautiful place, lots of networking and people to check out. And yeah, it's also a very safe place. So that for me was an awesome experience.
Cool. Okay. Did you have anything that you like hated about being down there? Doesn't sound like it, but
Well, everywhere, everybody's got something to complain about a little bit. I think I complained the most about, getting out and walking and, doing a little bit more because I didn't have a car. I just like went down there. It's just like, oh, I'll just walk and ride my bike and stuff. And I complained about it nonstop. But by the end of it, I was like, okay, I got my exercise in. I got, this is a lot better person for it. So while I complained about it initially, by the end of it and the end of school before I had left, I was like, oh, wow, like that was a pretty awesome experience to be able to put the work in and do all that stuff. And then, kind of pseudo force me to, take care of myself, which was an awesome, awesome thing to add.
I never really thought about that, about not having a car. I've been carless before, like in college, but we were trying to learn how to drive a stick all of a sudden in the mountain. But but I love that because, these days, everybody schedules everything. Everything's blocked off. And so which I do advocate. I really think that blocking off like to study for your undergrad classes probably really helps. Or I know it really helps. It's proven, but they'll block off, like go to the gym, go outside and take a walk. And it's on their calendar but yours was on your calendar. It was just forced.
Built into the life calendar. Which I agree 100%. And even with undergrad and trying to prep for vet school, like I think that's something that, yeah, you really got to make sure that you're being mindful of, because it's easy to lose focus on the big goal, but it's worth it in the end. And you'll find some new struggles along the way because they'll all be a little bit different for everyone.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you had to commute a special way.
Yeah, it was a good time. I mean, I think that, yeah, the last thing I will say that was a little bit different compared to like everywhere else, was I had never had to go get like a bunch of groceries and just kind of like take a bus or throw things in my backpack and doing like little trips, stuff like that. So there's a lot of different like quirks and things that I was just like, oh my gosh, like this is just not what I'm used to, having a vehicle and being in Canada and like all of those things. But it was also a great experience to be able to just experience something different.
It makes you scrappy, creative.
It really does. And St. Matthew's is really good at producing those people. There's actually a big proponent of some stats that they're working on right now that a lot of St. Matthew's grads are opening up their own vet clinics and kind of like doing a little bit more than, just being an associate somewhere and just hanging out. Like they're really putting in a lot of effort. So
I love that. So I am a scrappy girl. I feel like vets have to be scrappy, you got to figure it out. You got to duct tape it together, and so one of my goals, long-term goal, is to find a way to help new grads buy clinics. Like let's be the private equity. They want us. Why do they want us? Like we should be doing what all these other big firms are doing, and designing our own lives. And so that's one of my long-term goals, to try to figure that out somehow. And I think step one is building this community, and letting people realize like you don't have to do what they want you to do, like in that order or whatever it might be. You can apply differently. You can apply to a school that has rolling admissions, like St. Matthew's, admitting people in January and in June. It's incredible. You don't have to block off 4 years of your life and kind of waste, if you will, 2 summers. You can work all the way around and get right out there. There's so much that can be done, and you really can design your own life these days. You don't have to buy into this like little script, and like a prescription. So I just feel like we do everything off label, right? So for people that are listening that don't realize, not like there are no veterinary medications. They're all human medications, with the exception of maybe Baytril. So, and ACE Permazine, maybe. I don't know if people use that. So like everything we do is off label. And so I want to help people live that off label life, design your life, do it as you want to do it, and I think building your network and starting by, applying to vet school the way you want to apply and thinking outside the box, that's the beginning. And I think I can recognize the scrappy in you.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And that was exactly my story, kind of like yours. I mean, I thought everything was like a cookie cutter recipe that you had to, you have to do this, then you have to do this, then you have to do this. And like, you had to go on Reddit and Google the things, and they just told you the order of everything that you had to do. And no, you can make vet school applications. You can make undergrad and vet school apply to your own life. You just have to, make it work and figure it out. And I mean, yeah, it takes a little bit of effort, but it's no different than the same amount of effort that you're going to put in doing that cookie cutter approach and doing, some other things too. So, I mean, as long as you're scrappy and you're able to put it through, you'll get there.
Yeah, exactly. Don't discount yourself so quickly. Do you have like any advice for students that are studying right now, students that are planning on applying soon? What would you tell a young undergrad or a non-traditional student like yourself, let's say about a year away from applying?
Absolutely. I actually tell the same things to owners all the time when I'm trying to describe if they're going to put a cone on their dog. You know what? It sucks in the short term, and there's absolutely some downfalls to it, but the long-term gains of it are absolutely worth it. So please just do it. As far as like that same approach for like the undergrad things, yeah, it can be frustrating. It can be tough. Absolutely. But it's something that you're going to get through one way or another. And so as far as studying goes, undergrad and, high school and everything, as you look back and reflect on each thing that you've done in your life, you go, oh, that was a lot easier than I thought it was in lots of cases. But everybody kind of progresses through and gets through it. And it sucks while it's happening, but after the fact, man, do you feel a lot better for, having done it. So I do think that it's worth putting in the effort in right now and, figuring all that stuff up. And you know what, if you're not perfect, if you don't get, 95% on that exam, it's not the end of the world. You're going to get through it one way or another. You just have to kind of pivot and take what you have right now and then just kind of use that information and your resources to be able to kind of forge that path that you need to, because there's going to be some bumps along the road, but it's worth doing. My biggest advice in that regard is, use free resources and use resources that you have, like YouTube and all of those other things. You can actually go on and hone your study skills, because once you get into vet school, it's absolutely a little bit of a different creature. It's kind of like trying to drink from a fire hose. Like, yeah, some gets in your mouth all the time, but man, if you don't drink it up fast enough, you're going to start drowning. Well, I mean, it's something that I thought I had to be perfect. I thought I had to get 100% in everything. I thought like I had to be the perfect student to be able to get into it, and it's not. There's a lot of different avenues you can take, and there's a lot of different pivots that you can make. You just have to be willing to kind of continue on that process and that journey, so it's worth it. And those free resources and study guides and all those things that you can find online, or just networking and chatting with other people, are something that you should take advantage of now and be able to save that stuff for later. That's like my biggest advice. And the way that I kind of organized and did all that was I used apps and programs and stuff that I wasn't even familiar with, because I was also the person that was like, I'd rather have a physical book. I'd rather have something in front of me. But then I had to, between money and some other logistic stuff, like I had to go to online textbooks and, try and, save a little bit that way. And so those are some of the resources that I was so glad that I was able to kind of store and, keep as I went along my career to be able to utilize and recall later. So, start building that library of stuff that you need now. And whether it's an app or a program like, Notion or Evernote or, Obsidian or any of those things. I think for me, that was one of the biggest things that helped me kind of keep my life together and organized to be able to have stuff as I progressed through my career and be able to take advantage of all of those free things and the resources that I wanted when I wanted them down the road, because things move, things change, websites and links and all that stuff. So very helpful.
Definitely. You have to kind of adapt. Like I said, you have to be scrappy. You have to adapt. I mean, if you can imagine, like, our parents, they didn't have the internet. And so they're ripping out articles and highlighting like the new way to treat heart disease, and I mean, and so I learned that way too. But to already have these tools, even if you're not 19 years old, like to know how to use these things that are going to help you and like carry less in your backpack as you bike back to your house on Grand Cayman, that's huge. That's like my dad being able to just like, I don't know, use AI to sell a stock or something from his phone. Like the reality is, no, he does not know how to do that. But if he did, he'd be a lot richer and, savvier. So, but I absolutely love your analogy of like, put your cone on. Just put your cone on and get the worst out of the way.
Yep. Crush through it. It sucks in the short term a little bit, but man, is it worth the long-term gains in the end. So yeah, it's worth the grind. It's worth being scrappy for it. And then just, making it through your career, because you'll get there. If you're determined enough, you will get there. It's just, you just have to be prepared for, the stuff that's going to happen along the way.
I completely agree. And then I also love how you recommended, like, try not to be a perfectionist. Of course, like, everybody, you want your surgeon to be a perfectionist, but you don't want anybody else, because as a vet student, I mean, I have definitely used the textbook with my hands up, but anyway, like when you're in vet school, everyone there is a perfectionist. Everyone there used to sit in the front row. And guess what? There's only 4 seats in the front row or 10 seats in the front row. So you have to learn to like give up a little bit of perfectionism, and you have to give up that idea like I'm going to perfectly know everything before the test, or you will burn out as a veterinary student and definitely eventually down the road.
Yep, agreed. And the same thing applies to undergraduate and trying to get into vet school. It's not going to be perfect. Your journey is not going to be the same as everybody else, and you're going to share stories and compare and stuff like that. And somebody's going to get in, and somebody's going to not. But that doesn't mean that one is better than the other for any reason. It's just you just got to keep moving forward. That's all you really have to do.
I agree. Don't dwell on it. Move forward. What's next? I love it. Well, thank you for the advice. Is there anything else you want to share with our listeners?
Gosh, there's so much, but at the end of the day, I think really you just have to, try and progress and move forward, just like we had chatted about, and whatever that's going to be, make it your own journey, enjoy the ride along the way. And for me, I never thought I would end up, on an island in the South Caribbean, doing the things that I was doing, but it ended up, going that route for me, and a small town person in Canada living literally in the mountains in what was the wilderness capital at the time, to going down and traveling all over the place and going down south, going up to Prince Edward Island on way far on the east coast, and then back over to the west coast, and then down south to Los Angeles where I'm currently at now. I mean, everybody's experience is going to be a little bit different, and I did it from a non-traditional pathway that most people would not normally expect, or not be able to read about in the script. So yeah, it's worth doing it, so keep pushing yourself.
I love it. Well, I really can't thank you enough for joining us and for giving us this life advice, and for introducing us a little bit to St. Matthew's and all they have to offer.
Yeah, it was great. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Dr. Dillon, and I'll put all of your information at the bottom here so our listeners and readers can follow you and continue to learn from you. And again, thank you so much.